Well, I love you too. Thank you very much for those kind words, Kibby. I appreciate that. All right, so let's see here. So elements of functional community. So we're on page 73, Powernomics. So we talked about the celebrity culture, and so you got to be really careful about the celebrity culture and how it's misled the black community. He says also, now that we have identified some of the major menaces and impediments to building black communities, let's begin to design the kind of communities that we want and need. These communities must be built to overcome all the previously mentioned destructive elements. In the following pages, we will present designs for physical and human communities that can reverse the effects of centuries of social conditioning. So, integration ruined our communities. Dr. Anderson is talking about how we can rebuild those communities. The first thing we must do is convert residential neighborhoods into functioning communities that contain three key elements of operating systems. First, they should have an independent economy that is wholly owned by residents of the community and provides consumer products, services, businesses, and employment opportunities. So that goes back to that trust piece. A lot of businesses that can't get the support that they need because there is a lack of trust. So, because in order to build an economy, you have to have investors, and people don't invest with you if they don't trust you. Also, in order to build an economy, you don't just need investors; you need workers who become employees, things like that. So, the ability to hire other black people is one of the most important skills that young black children can learn. It doesn't, I don't care how successful you are and what kind of great job you got. I don't care if you're the highest paid dentist in your clinic. I don't care if you're the highest paid manager at UPS. What matters is, can you actually create a functioning system that has the ability to employ other people? But it's not something that people can just do on their own. It does require that level of thinking, but it also requires access to capital. This is why access to capital is probably one of the most important factors in any election. I don't listen to politicians unless they're talking about getting black folks access to the money that they need to start businesses and buy homes. If black people can buy homes easily and start businesses easily and get the capital they need and get capital for a business as easily as they can get capital for a student loan, then that's going to move the needle. All this other stuff is stupid. It's a waste of time. It gets on my nerves. I have no time for it. Because here's the thing. You can build economies if you have a person that has a high-minded vision. Like I'll go ahead and humbly put myself in that category. I know all about economics and what to do with money, right? So imagine if I could go somewhere and borrow $1 billion. Think about how many jobs I could create with $1 billion. Think about, I could build school. I could build a school system. Dozens of schools, maybe 100. I could create industry. I could create tons of jobs, thousands of jobs probably from that kind of money, right? And so ultimately, you don't just need the access to the capital. You need the brain power, the human capital, to be able to know what to do with that money. So if you have some guy who's an NBA player who has a $200 million contract, but he has no concept of what it means to be able to deploy that kind of capital, then what he's going to do is he's going to sit there and just be one rich Negro, and that's it, right? But if you take somebody that is an industrialist that understands how to develop business and all these other things, then they can take things to that next level. So theoretically, to build an economy, you really need those three things. You need investors. You need you need the ability to create jobs and people to take those jobs. You also need customers. You need the ability to sell a product and somebody's going to buy it and somebody's going to deliver that service. So, but this requires a level of thought that someone doesn't have if all they're thinking about is how to get a job, right? So if you are an employee, that I'm not shaming that at all. That's perfectly fine. But I want you to integrate into your family some sort of thinking that says, how do we develop systems that can create employment for other people? What would that look like in theory, even if I don't have the money to do everything I want to do? Okay, so he says that the first thing that an independent community should have is its own economy. Two, a community needs to have an active code of conduct and group accountability. So that means that when you see celebrities acting ratchet, it's okay to speak up on that. It doesn't matter if people say, well, why are you hating, why are you hating? So what? I'm not hating. We're just talking about accountability and a code of conduct. You're not just going to be out here twerking in front of 8-year-old girls and teaching them how to become the next Cardi B, because that's not a pathway to success. We don't want little black boys growing up and becoming thugs because you're marketing drug dealing as if that's a good thing, as if that's going to lead to a good outcome in his life, as if that's what he should be looking up to. Third, he says that they should have some form of governance that collectively speaks for the residents and is capable of applying political pressure to outside groups. So you need political leaders. You don't have political leaders. You don't have anybody out here that's really advocating for you and saying, I represent black folks and that's it. The best you might have is you have a guy like Ice Cube who's doing a great job, I think, of representing his people. But the Congressional Black Caucus, they claim they want to represent everybody. That's not beneficial to the black community. So let's keep going. So he's going to elaborate on the independent elements a little more deeply. And remember, these are the remedies for what's going on with integration, for the fact that integration harmed you, integration diluted you, integration did pretty much in every measure of quality of life, black people have gone down as a result of integration. Like, give me a yes or no. Do we are our kids better educated now because of integration, better or worse? Yes or no. Are they better educated or worse educated? No, if they're worse educated. Okay. Are our families stronger or weaker? Did our families get better after integration, or did they get worse? Let's think. What else? Let's look at let's see. Let's look at wealth. Oh, wealth. Do we have more black wealth now or after integration? Like, are we better off financially than we were before integration? Yes or no? So if we're worse off in terms of wealth, in terms of family, in terms of education, and I can keep going. I can talk about health and a lot of other things, safety, violence, stuff like that. If we're worse off, then why do we celebrate integration in school? Like, why did they tell us that that's the best thing that ever happened to us? Why do they talk about, question anybody that questions integration, like, oh, that's a bad thing, you're a racist, blah, 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 blah. And I think that integration, what's interesting to me is that it's really just built on the basic idea that white people are better than you. That the only way you can improve your life is to be closer to white people, because that's like being closer to God. And I question that. I really think that we have to realize that, sure, the freedom to do what you want to do is fine. Desegregation is perfectly fine. But integration and following around somebody else and allowing someone else to develop the systems that affect you is probably not the safest way for you to live. So here's what Dr. Anderson says in Powernomics, page 74, about an independent economy. He says, not one black neighborhood in America has a black business economy upon which its members can depend to supply its residents with their daily necessities, products, services, or jobs. As stated earlier, the civil rights movement of the 1960s was destructive to urban black communities in many aspects. Black America would have been much better off had the movement equipped blacks to have their own job and product producers rather than seekers of the jobs and products of others. Don't you dare let a politician come in and convince you to get your vote by saying, I'm going to get more jobs for black people. We need businesses. We can create our own jobs. If you let the business owners that can create jobs in the community get the capital that they need, then they can create more jobs. No, nobody's more willing to create jobs for black people than black people. So if you take those black-owned businesses that are already doing well, those black-owned businesses that are already making money, those black-owned businesses that have already figured out how to survive, and you dump capital on them, you give them an extra 10 million to operate with. Well, first thing they're gonna do is hire some more damn black people. Seriously. If our business, my company's Boyce Watkins Enterprises, if Boyce Watkins Enterprises suddenly had access to an extra $100 million, I would be hiring like crazy. We'd be doing all kinds of stuff, right? So the point is that black businesses are the ones most likely to hire black people, and that's natural. White people hire white people, Asian people hire Asian people. That's kind of how the world works. So, so he's basically saying, like, when you're sending your kids to college and it's like, okay, we're gonna put you $100,000 in debt so you can go learn how to work for white folks. That's not a win. That you literally are swimming to the bottom of the ocean and you're going to drown, and because you are aiming for the bottom. Don't aim for the bottom. You aim for the top. Let me keep going. Black America would have been much better off had the movement equipped blacks to have their own job and product producers rather than seekers of jobs and products of others. If blacks have become production oriented rather than consumption oriented, there is little likelihood that today they would have a hidden national unemployment rate of 34% and live in neighborhoods rather than communities. Today, black neighborhoods are totally dependent upon whites and other competing groups to supply the products, services, and employment needs of black neighborhoods. Next, he talks about code of conduct and group accountability. A code of conduct is a standard of behavior that outlines what is right and wrong within and outside the community. It serves as a competitive tool that promotes group unity and accountability by suggesting either rewards or punishments for its members based upon how their acts help or hurt the members of the group. The burden for establishing and enforcing a code of conduct typically falls upon the shoulders of the community's basic institutions: the church, the family, and the school. The church, the family, and the school. The church, the family, and the school. The churches are still there. They're intact. Some of those churches are doing the right thing. Some of them are not. The family is dead. Drugs killed your family. You need a zero tolerance policy when it comes to dope. Seriously, drugs ruin everything. Some of you don't have a parent because of drugs, because you had a parent that was either killed over drugs, got hooked on drugs, or got locked up over drugs, and everybody else got traumatized. Drugs, no place in the black community. So stop talking to me about drugs. There was a professor at Columbia who walks around, a black psychology professor at Columbia, and I know Columbia. My goddaughter went to Columbia. They're like this bastion of liberal thought, and some of it I agree with, some of it I do not. And this black professor, I don't remember his name, but he was a psychology professor, was running around talking about how he likes to smoke a little crack on the weekends, and he thinks heroin is okay to take every now and then. And I'm sitting there thinking, Negro, did somebody ask me, somebody have the nerve to ask me, hey, Dr. Boyce, you should interview him, bring him on your podcast. I'm like, man, do you understand what drugs did to my family? Do you understand what we went through? Do you know my daddy was hooked on dope and in prison, and that's why he didn't spend any time being my daddy? Do you know how many friends I know who died from drugs? Do you know that I got friends that got 14 life sentences for dealing dope? Why in the hell would you think I'd even flirt with sitting around talking about how drugs are okay and all this other? Who put that crap into your head? I'm sorry, but I think as black people, we got to look at what consistent, even all that weed they got our kids smoking. I'm not anti-cannabis. I get it. The CBD is great. I put it on my kneecaps in order to go run it. The THC, a little bit of that ain't never hurt nobody. Maybe a little natural stuff is fine. But if you're sitting around smoking weed all day, every day, and you're smoking that manufactured crap, you are destroying your brain cells in a way that they will not be repaired, and you will be a complete loser that loses the respect of your kids. You won't be able to get up and get out of bed to do damn near nothing. You will never be a good father to your kids. You'll never be a good husband to a woman. You'll never be a good leader for your family. All that's going to be dead because they're killing your brain cells. So as black people, I think that we have to have honest conversations about this stuff. They promote it like it ain't nothing, but there's nothing productive, positive, or uplifting about a 19-year-old who is so doped up out of his mind that he can't even remember his last name. He's not, some of that stuff you can't come back from. Some of these pills, you get hooked on these pills, you get hooked on those opioids and all that at an early age. Man, you are done. It is game over. They blew the whistle on your black ass. You're no longer part of the team anymore because you can't win anymore. You will never be able to be even trusted by the people that love you because we know dope addicts will go steal and destroy, abandon their families and all this other stuff. So look, I'm not sitting here trying to say that you should feel bad if you have a problem. I'm not trying to be the police of everybody's morality and what they do. I'm trying to say, just think for your damn self and stop following the crowd. You know, alcohol. How many of y'all got drunk ass uncles and ain't never been no good for nobody? Why do we act like alcohol and heavy alcohol consumption is okay? I don't even want to go. I see that show. They have that show, the YouTube show called Drink Champs. And I like the guys that go on there. I like the rappers. I know some of them. They're cool. But I don't want to be a drink champ because drink champs end up in the morgue by the time you're 45 years old because your damn liver done fell out of your body. I don't want to be a drink champ. I want to, how about we become intellectual champs? How about we become champs of thought? And so I'm not dissing that at all. I'm not, I have to be careful because people think, oh, you just hating and blah, blah, blah. Black man, you man. You ain't got to be the one who can pop the most pills and smoke the most weed and drink the most liquor. Who told you that? Who told you that being a black man means you got to be high and drunk all the damn time? Who told you that? Let me tell you something different. I think also that being a black man means being alert and being prepared. It means, there are lots of great soldiers who don't drink and don't smoke who are amazing black men, who will defend you in a battle, who will fight for their kids, who will love a black woman into the ground, who will really show up for their community. Those are the types of men that I love. Those are the types of men that I really want to hang out with. I don't want to hang out with a drunk and a drug addict and all that stuff. I mean, if you're in that category, I don't hate you. Just go get some help because it's hurtful, man. It hurts people's feelings when you so caught up in the liquor bottle that you have abandoned your kids and your family doesn't feel protected. Like you're traumatizing your children with that kind of behavior. So stand up, man. Straighten your back up. Stop this stuff. Stop imitating. Stop doing whatever white folks tell you to do. Let me move on. So I think our code of conduct needs to come from us. That's my point. I'm not telling you, I'm not the king of black people. I have no right to tell any black person how they should behave and how they should carry themselves. I can only speak for what I see and what I believe. I have a code of conduct. My code of conduct is I don't drink around. I'm not going to drink around my kids. I don't drink at all. But if I did drink, I wouldn't drink around the kids because I don't want them to see me acting like a damn buffoon and then me saying, "I'm sorry, yo, I was drunk. I was a little too tipsy. I declare that's why I did." Okay. And if you notice, a lot of those police shootings happen when black men are under the influence. When you're drunk and high and you're acting a fool and you're trying to fight the cop and you're trying to get us. I'm not saying that they should have shot you. I'm just saying you wasn't at your best. You weren't at your best self at that moment. So you became vulnerable, which means that the enemy can take you out anytime they want because you're a sucker. They have no respect for you. There ain't nobody ever been scared of a drunk. I want them scared of me. I want them scared of my brain. I want them scared of what we can all do when we work together. I want you to see me and say, "Ooh, I better come correct," because when this guy voice walking shows up, he's gonna be alert. He's gonna be aware. He's gonna count every penny. He's gonna see every crack in the armor. He's gonna see every little thing because he is ready mentally. That's why you need to respect the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam is one of the few groups in this country that really understands what I'm saying. I don't know. I can't think of too many men I've ever met from the Nation of Islam who were not operating near level 10. That to me, when I visualize just how beautiful the community can be, how successful we can be, how honored and respected and feared we can be, I see what the Nation of Islam is doing, and you ain't got to agree with everything that they have going on, but you got to show respect to that because they're the only place that can take a black man that's operating on level 2 and get him on level 10. That's what we need. We need more of that. We need to do that on mass scale. We need to do that with 1 million black boys. Can you imagine if you had 10 million black men who carried themselves the same way the guys in the Nation of Islam do? Forget the religion part. Let's say without the religion. I mean, we would be the toughest, strongest community on this earth. No black woman would ever feel that she couldn't trust a black man. She would say black men are amazing because look at how these men behave. Look at how these men carry themselves. No black child would feel unprotected. Right? So that's what I want. That's what I'd like to see, and I think we have it in us. We just have to set our own code of conduct. Don't let white people tell you what your conduct needs to be. You set your own code of conduct. So let me move forward. Let me keep going. So he says a code of conduct does several things for a community. First, as a system or collection of rules that prescribes and justifies how blacks should think, see, and behave with other individuals and groups. These rules can be explicit or implicit, but either way, they act to govern individual behavior that affects the group. A black code of conduct is necessary to keep out the destructive behavior that is so often evident in black neighborhoods. Moreover, wealth and power can be built only when there is an enforceable code of conduct. A code of conduct defines inappropriate behavior and impedes it. It also rewards behaviors that uplift and strengthen the group. Any group that is characterized by self-hate, a lack of group self-interest, disorganization, and other social pathologies must implement a code of conduct in order to build an organized society and maintain an infrastructure that includes schools, healthcare systems, and other human services. Once a code of conduct has been articulated, it should be adopted and communicated through schools, neighborhood associations, churches, and families so that it reaches all the residents. It must not only become a guide to appropriate behavior, but also a guide towards accountability and the development of penalties for inappropriate behavior. So let me just stop here and tell you guys something. I mentioned this before, and I'll mention it now. I'm almost done. I've been working on a book for about a year now, and the book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. And I designed this book specifically because I feel that my job as one of the whatever thinkers in economics in this community is to develop a code of conduct that can be implemented in every family that will allow you to build the economic empire that you would like to have. So in this book, which I'm almost done working on it, and I'm really thinking it through to make sure I lay it out in a simple infrastructure so you can easily apply it, easily memorize it, etc. I basically designed the rules that will allow you to do whatever you want when it comes to your economics. Okay. Now, we also need codes of conduct when it comes to entertainment. We need codes of conduct when it comes to politics. We need codes of conduct when it comes to relationships. Lord Jesus, we need that, right? But when it comes to the economic thing, this is why I wrote this book. Let me just explain to you. I don't write books to make money because books don't make a lot of money. I've sold over 100,000 books, but a lot of the books I've sold at cost or given away and things like that. So this is actually a book that I'm probably going to give away the digital version so that you guys can all have it, just like I did with It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, and also with the $5 day investing plan. This book. And I'm going to let you guys know, you guys, because you're here, you're in the book club, you're going to know about the book before anybody else. This is something that I laid out to give you a simple blueprint. So if you're looking for a code of conduct when it comes to your economics that will allow you to develop an economy in your family, that's what this book is designed to do. It's designed to say, look at all the wealth that is in our family. You know, the fact that there are so many of you already, you got 3 siblings and 2 parents or whatever it is that you got in your family, and you got a couple cousins. You have wealth right there. Wealth is already right there. The problem is that you, because of this inappropriate behavior that you were trained with from these white public schools, you're trained to throw it all away. You throw it all away, and then you say, well, where's the money? There's no wealth around here. And you say, and unfortunately, you're doing that. You don't realize you threw $1 million out the window. And but again, I'm not making fun of anybody. I promise you. And what I had to learn actually was that because I've studied economics for so long, and because I can see so many things, sometimes I'll just get frustrated, and it can even sound like I'm talking down on the world. And I'm not trying to do that at all. I promise you. I really just want you to look up and trust me when I tell you that every black family is sitting on $1 million worth of possibility if you can create a code of conduct and structure yourselves around some sort of game plan that allows you to build rather than destroy. That's the point. Uh, I'll give you another example. I watched Diddy's documentary, you know, where he's talking about the last 30 years of Bad Boy, and they got to the part where they talked about Biggie and Tupac. And I said, most people don't even realize that the deaths of Biggie and Pac easily cost the black community $2 or $3 billion, because Biggie and Pac were internationally known brands. They were very, very, very popular at that time. They would have become more popular over time. They would have become legends, just like the Jay-Z's and everybody else. And they would have probably, they could have easily become billionaires off of that. Dr. Dre, he's a billionaire. Tupac would have been right there with him. Tupac was more popular than Dr. Dre. He's more popular than Jay-Z, all those people. And so because people could not resolve their disputes, because they let white folks interfere in black folks' business, you had these magazines, pushing the beef on because it was good for their entertainment. Well, then you lost billions of dollars because you got into inappropriate behavior. Tupac was definitely a part of that. He starts off that song, "Hit 'Em Up." Was it "F you and the click you claim"? You call yourself a player, but I F your wife. All that's inappropriate, tacky as hell. Like, why would you do that? And so you create an environment where people are going to start getting shot at, and in the media's beefing this on. And the thing is that this is the situation that should have been handled internally. If those two guys had sat down with Louis Farrakhan, he could have resolved that dispute, and the black community would have saved about $2.5 to $3 billion in long-term economic potential that would come from not having two of the most prominent artists in the world getting killed. When I think about that, remember that Biggie Pop beef was economic warfare. I believe they killed Biggie because they said, okay, so you killed our multi-million-dollar asset. We're going to kill your, $10 million a year asset. And that's what it was. They were assets. So what I'm saying to you is that a lot of you have Biggie Pop beefs in your own family. A lot of you have situations where two people who could have done very well together can't get along. And next thing you know, you're destroying each other. So you can't build anything when you're fighting each other. That starts with husband and wife. You know, you married that woman, you loved her to death, she loved you to death, but because you didn't take the time to get a marriage counselor to help you work through your relationship problems. Now, instead of trying to build together, you're destroying each other. So I would encourage you to just look around. The wealth is all around you because there's a tremendous amount of wealth in people. White people have always known this. That's why they enslaved you, because you were worth trillions of dollars to them. You built America. You helped them become as wealthy as they are right now. If you could control your community as well as white people have controlled your community, then you will be very successful. Seriously, if black folks develop codes of conduct and systems in the community that were as strong as white supremacy was as a system and a code of conduct, then it's game over. So you must think in a systematic way. You must develop codes of conduct. You have to communicate that to your children. And you got to pick your people, pick your clique, and say, look, this is how we operate. Like I had a conversation with my son today, and I told him, I said, look, family doesn't make a commitment and not follow through with the commitment. Family doesn't borrow money from other family and not pay it back. You don't do that. Right? We talked about that today. So let me keep going. All right. So let's see here. All right. So let's keep reading. Thank you, Pamela, for getting me back on track. I appreciate it. All right. So let's see here. Page 70. Here we go. 74. All right. So we're on page 74, Powernomics, or 75. I'm sorry. The code of conduct should be carefully taught to black children so that each generation will know what is expected of it. See, Dr. Anderson saying pretty much the same thing I was saying a second ago. Among other things, black youth need to know how they should treat other members of their family and community. What was I just saying? What was I literally just saying to you guys? How to conduct themselves at school, in church, or in the community. How to show respect for themselves, their property, as well as the property of others. A code of conduct must effectively discourage Sambo behavior that was once known as Uncle Tomism. This kind of behavior is extremely detrimental to community building. It is nearly impossible to eliminate because dominant society rushes to reward it. Samboism, Lizzo, is a means of social control that extends all the way back to slavery. The majority society has always needed a few blacks who would sell out their race for their own personal gain. The practice of Samboism has continued for more than a century after slavery ended because there is still not a prescribed code of conduct that either forbids it or imposes consequences to those who engage in it as a means of selling out their race. The consequences for Samboism can vary from social sanctions to economic penalties. In some cities, black activist community organizations post the pictures of Sambos on yard signs and billboards. Others publicly issue Sambo certificates and Hayward Shepherd Awards. Hayward Shepherd was a black man who was killed by John Brown's raiding party for trying to warn the town of Harper's Ferry, Virginia, that raiders were there to free the black slaves. The punishment for violating code and behavior standards must be sure and swift. It is important that every member of the community understands that the community will enforce the code and protect itself. I'm going to take a deep breath right there. Yes, I did say Lizzo. I did, and I could point out some of these rappers, the Migos, perhaps, that violate codes of conduct on a regular basis. And I personally think that as black people, we got to stop thinking that all kinds of behavior is okay just because some white person paid you to do it. That's literally one of the biggest detriments to progress in the community, is that we really think that something's okay because white people paid us to do it, and maybe it got you on the BET Awards. And I personally think that we have to reevaluate that standard and start realizing that some things are not acceptable and some things need to be called out and dealt with. A code of conduct will be necessary to communicate new team standards. Some blacks have behaved in their individual self-interest when they perceive disorganization, self-destructive behavior, behavior, and mixed signals among blacks to mean that there was no functioning skin color team. Those who choose to change their behavior to re-identify with the team and to take part in helping the group achieve self-sufficiency and competitiveness will need a code of conduct as a guide to new behaviors. It can show those who have position and celebrity status in sports, entertainment, corporate America, or in government how to benefit and strengthen the group. Social and political governance. Lastly, a functioning black community should have a structure of social and political governance that regulates community institutions and represents the collective interests of the community. All across America, black neighborhoods are administered and governed by whites, even in cities where black elected officials are already in place. Whites set the rules. Blacks are expected to obey. This pattern of domination was achieved with the full knowledge and support of both black and white societies. Once blacks get into a stronger position, they should not allow whites or any other group to represent them in competitive situations. To do so constitutes a conflict of interest. However, for the moment, whites control all the institutions within black neighborhoods. They derive the benefits of authority, income, jobs, and business opportunities from governing in both white and black communities. Moreover, they determine what services black people receive and the products or opportunities that exist within black neighborhoods. It is now imperative that blacks put themselves in positions socially and politically to represent and be responsible for their own community. This will not be easy. So what he's saying is that you have to have that ability to govern yourself. Stop looking for your damn allies to do things for you that you can do for yourself. Ain't no allies. You ain't got no real allies. Let's keep going. Even when blacks are duly and legally elected to public office, they often do not make governing decisions that are in the best interest of their black constituents. Once in office, they often become sensitive to approval ratings and the need for re-election funds. So ratings and funds, making white people happy and getting money from corporate America. That's the two things that drive people like Raphael Warnock. He is not a politician that is going to represent the black community in a significant way because he's got to represent the corporations that are paying him, and he's got to make sure white folks love him. Since blacks rarely conduct polls or vote based on criteria other than popularity and have little money for campaign contributions, blacks seeking or holding public office often find it more advantageous to secure the approval of white society. They believe white dollars will come to them while they are in office as well as when they leave public service. They harbor no such notion for black dollars. So when they graduate or when they not graduate, when they leave office, they know that there's some big white law firm that's going to pay them lots of money to be something in their company. In the case of black elected officials, they are restricted from assisting the black community because they do not control public or private resources. The dominant society will make sure that public resources follow the control of white elected officials. Protecting their own best interests, they do not want the levers of control in black hands. Most know or suspect that it is easier to ideologically and politically control and economically exploit disorganized blacks who lack both physical communities and a strong sense of community. Andrew Hacker, in his book Two Nations, discussed how whites fear blacks and hold strong beliefs that political control should never be surrendered to black people. Under this system of white domination, black elected officials' political power is mostly symbolic. Withholding control of public resources from black officials is a standard operating procedure. Blacks will not voluntarily be given control, regardless of whether the city's black population is the minority or the majority. Detroit. Without tangible resources and power, it is nearly impossible for the properly intentioned black elected official or the black community to compete. Can y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? I hope I wasn't yelling too loud. I apologize if I did. I'm sorry. This burns me up. Okay, you were able to hear me okay. Okay, so someone said volume and freezing. So I hope that wasn't too bad. All right, I'm going to stop here. Page 77, Powernomics, powernomics.com is where you can get a copy. We're going to go into nationalism and pluralism next week, where Dr. Anderson talks about ethnic blacks and black nationalism, aggregation in urban cities, and a few other factors, boundary maintenance, maintaining your boundaries. So we're going to do that next week. So with the book club, we meet every Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern, 8:30 Eastern. And also, if you go to boycewatkins.com, if you want to see what's going on over there, feel free to do that. Don't forget that also tomorrow, the Black Wealth Bootcamp starts. We're going to cover how to generate income by selling stock options. I'm going to show you how I pick my stocks, how I manage my risk, how I figure out how much income I'm going to generate, how I rebalance my portfolio. I'm going to show you my whole method. So if you're interested in joining, you still like to join, just go to boycewatkins.com. And also you can look for, you can use the code word Dr. Boyce, all one word, and that will take 20% off. And once you're done after the 4 weeks, you'll instantly be able to get started. And this is a great way to generate income in a down economy. So this method works really well right now because stocks are going down. So if you're buying a stock, waiting for the money to come in, waiting for the price to go up, you may be waiting for a while. The recession is coming. Some say the recession's here. This is a method that is recession proof. This generates income even during downturns, and that's why I love it. So anyway, guys, if that's of interest to you, just go to boycewatkins.com. You can sign up. The code is Dr. Boyce, all one word. You can get 20% off. Is this a stock class for dummies? It is designed for beginners, but I also give you free access to my stock options masterclass in case you want to hop into that and take a look at some of the material. And I do explain it in a way where an 8-year-old can understand it. Okay, guys. So anyway, have a nice night. It was real. I had a good time talking to everybody here, and I love you. And I'll see you guys soon. So take care now. Bye bye.